Welcome to the Sound of Movement podcast. Today we're talking about training psychology, and we're going to be talking about the 3 critical steps that you need to get right at the start of your journey if you want to get good results. These are the things that most people skip and why most people fail and stay on the hamster wheel. What's up, everyone? It's time to rock. If you're new to the tribe, Rich is behind the mix and Nalesh is across the table from me. My name is Rad Burmeister. We are Unity Gym, experts at turning driven people into athletes. This episode is brought to you by the Unify Movement System, the only online program effectively balancing strength, flexibility, and fitness so you can unleash your inner athlete. You can get daily coaching by us, plus our Epic Foundations Prep program and revolutionary structural balance blueprint to create your ideal program and optimize your performance. As a valued listener, use the link in the description to get your first month free. Now, I'm also excited to announce that we've extended our Epic Flash Sale by 24 hours because I totally forgot to send emails out to notify everybody. And I had a few people expressing that they were a little bit upset that they didn't know about it. Yanni's been on holidays and he took some time away from doing daily emails, and I totally forgot that there was no emails going out. So you have another 24 hours to get any of our 3 epic flexibility masterclass programs. Now, before we get started, warm welcome if you're on the live stream in the UMS Movement Mastermind Facebook group. Leave a comment and we'll send you some love. Remember that anyone can join and interact. And lastly, a shout out to our YouTube athletes catching the replay. Hit the like button to support the channel and subscribe if you like what you see. Okay, so as I said before, joining us today is Nalesh Murty from ADPT Physio. How are you today, bro?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, man. Really good. How's fatherhood, mate? How old's your bub now?
We're at what is it? What day is it today? It's Tuesday. So we're at day 13.
Day 13.
Averaging 3.5
hours sleep.
3.5 hours sleep. But it's amazing how the body just does it.
It's crazy, isn't it, man?
You just do it. You hear cry, you hear whinge, you get up and check.
And you just do it.
You don't
what
look
else
at the
are you
time.
going to do, right?
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And how's it going at home? How's it?
That's good.
How's Gabby surviving?
Gabby's going well. She's enjoying it. Day by day, he's changing. Today he's learnt a new thing. He knew where mum is, so he's actually followed mum around, which is
with his eyes,
which is amazing. I'm the cleaner, he reckons, or just the assistant in the house. He hasn't acknowledged me yet, so I don't think he even knows he has a dad.
I remember that feeling. I remember that, mate. I'm sure any parents out there that are listening can relate as well. Yeah, good times, good times. Well, congratulations, mate. It is a good time. It's a magical time.
You.
You'll only get it once. You only have your first kid once, so at least that you know about anyway. When
Some in Europe at the moment. Probably.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So today, everyone, this is a really good discussion. If you didn't catch yesterday's show, Yanni and I pre-framed it by. We were talking about training psychology, the dangers of short-term goals, and we introduced the health hierarchy of needs. And today we want to go really deep on that because it is a really good opportunity to have Nalesh, who's been a physio for the GWS Giants, which is a Sydney AFL team. It's in Australia. We really have we have 3 different football codes that we play. They'll quite different, but kind of similar at the same time. We have rugby league, rugby union, and Australian football. And Australian football is it's an extremely athletic sport. The guys, unlike gridiron or American football or whatever it's actually called, or rugby union, which is definitely a world sport, an international sport, AFL doesn't have a line that you're running against. AFL is just chaotic. They just run all over the field. They can kick in any direction they want. They can pass in any direction they want. And it makes for some serious athletes, if I do say so myself. So I thought it would be a good idea to get Nalesh's insight into what our health hierarchy of needs really is, because I actually only introduced it to him 10 minutes ago. And I'll give him another little quick rundown on it while I tell you guys about it. Basically, the health hierarchy is something that we identified that was a commonality between people that had achieved greater than average results with their health and fitness. And it came about when Yanni, Richard and I were kind of banging our heads against the wall one day, wondering why our members that train at Unity Gym 5 days a week weren't getting similar results to us if they were training 5 days a week. Like, why are people still not able to lose weight? Why are they not able to build muscle, get flexible, get strong, all these things? And what we identified is that there's a couple of things that happen on autopilot for us that don't happen on autopilot for the average punter. And that's how we identified the health hierarchy. And in order, this is how it goes: motivation, daily habit of movement, nutrition, physique, movement mastery. The idea being that the way we've been able to identify it is that until you tick off one step, you won't achieve success by trying to move to the next step. What do I mean by that? Well, anybody that's achieved great success with their health and fitness or with sport, motivation was probably ticked off a very long time ago. They found a way, either intrinsically or extrinsically, to become motivated on another level than the average person. Nobody needed to remind them why they are doing this or what they're doing. Or if they did, it was maybe 1 or 2 pep talks that just got them laser focused again. The next is the daily habit of movement. When training for, footy, when going to the gym to lift weights, when running, whatever it is that you do, when that just became a habit, autopilot, not something that you question whether you're going to do, not something that you look outside and you realize it's cold and raining, I'm not going to go to the gym today. It's something that just happens all the time. Only once those 2 things have been taken care of do we get people to move on to nutrition. The only reason why we do that is we actually talked about, do we think that nutrition or daily habit of movement should come first? And nutrition is so much of a bigger beast to tackle. That's the only reason why we put it third. Because when we identified the health hierarchy and wrote it down, the reason why I say identified is because we may have created the concept of it, but the theories, what it is, wasn't created by us, it was identified by us. And we want people to be able to have wins. And the win of coming to the gym daily is so much easier than the win of getting your nutrition right. And only then, when those 3 steps are in place, is the physique that everybody's chasing going to come very, very easy. If you're motivated, if you train daily, and if you've got your nutrition right, you won't even need to think about your physique. You won't. You'll just get in great shape. And only when your physique is where most people want it to be, can you then focus on movement mastery. And if we talk about AFL, the Australian Football League, these are people that are, and they have the WFL now, the Women's Football
AFLW,
League.
yes.
AFLW, yep. So they have men's and women's code. These are human beings. These are Australians who are at the pinnacle of athletic performance. They are high achievers. And there's no one out there that hasn't taken care of their physique before they've gotten to that level. You just cannot perform at that level if your body composition, if your muscle mass, if you're just not optimized for performance. What do you reckon, Nalesh?
Well, you've made me think, because I've done a handful of notes here. No, you're exactly right. If you're going to compare everyday people to athletes, or the athletes I work with, the first 2 steps are ticked off, like motivation's ticked off, they're footy players.
Yep.
They watch their idols. They watch it on TV. They watch it on Sunday Arvos. Thursday night footy.
Yep.
That's ticked off. Habits come in. Most guys are embedded into a program where it's Saturday's game day.
Yep.
You have to go to training. So it just becomes a habit. Just like we spoke about, habit is, our gym schedule is within our work schedule at times. You come into work, train, and you start work.
Yeah.
I think the big difference here that I feel that athletes have over everyday people, where I think everyday people or the general pop can really address and be at, is athletes trust the process, and they actually see the footsteps or the different hierarchies or pillars or fundamentals they need to tick off to get to the end. I think that's the biggest difference. Like with AFLW girls, yes, it's a new program it's come into. They're not as established in terms of a sporting organisation, which is already there, but they've already had the motivation. The habits come in because of local footy, and again, they're trusted the process of becoming elite athletes or being a movement mastery within that level. So
Yep. And I think my perspective or my perception on this, it would be that because being a professional athlete is something that's been around for a while now, it's not like you're doing something that nobody's done before. And there's good systems and procedures in place to take a gifted youngster and turn them into a professional athlete, so that when somebody has that level of motivation and then somebody taps them on the shoulder and says, listen, if you want, we can put you into this special program where we're going to, foster these skills and see how you go with it. Most people would trust that process if that was a decision that they want, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not really going to say, no, I think I can do it better on my own. If the coach comes up and says, look, we want to put you in the, in the advanced team or whatever it is.
And as soon as they get the tap on the shoulder by someone that's recognised, or someone that's an authority, or someone that's actually got a result, they're going to trust that process, going, okay, he's done it, he's created, we'll come up with Cristiano Ronaldo, he's created Gareth Bale, or whatever sport you're going to go to. I'm going to go to him.
Yep.
I'm going to trust his process. I'm going to go down his pillars and fundamentals of becoming, a master of what I do. So,
And I reckon I'd like to highlight what you pointed out there about saying how, with motivation, how, these people, these professional athletes at the highest level, the way that you described how their motivations come around, like, they've watched footy, they've watched their idols, they watch the Thursday night matches, they watch this, they watch that. That's been massive for me over my years. I when I think back, I try to think, because it's the funniest thing when somebody says to you, oh man, you're just gifted, you're so lucky that you're good at this. And I just laugh at it and I just smile and go, oh yeah. I wasn't better at it than anybody else when I started. In fact, when I started doing martial arts, that was rollerblading was actually my first introduction to movement. Don't hold it against me, but that was where, I was a kid, I did martial arts, I did a bit of soccer, I did a bit of this, but rollerblading was the first thing that I really went all in on, and I was doing it every day. And I wasn't gifted at it. I was there were guys that I used to skate with that were so much more gifted than I was at it. And then the same with martial arts. I got into martial arts and I was good enough, but I think it was what you spoke about with grit. It was effort over talent. One thing that people didn't outdo me on was effort. I really put effort in. And I remember, I reflect back on because martial arts was the thing that I did get better at. I didn't get great at rollerblading. I got good at it. And in all honesty, I didn't get great at martial arts either. I got good at it, but I definitely got better than the average person. And a massive part of the motivation for me was the amount of martial arts movies I used to watch. I just filled my head constantly with people that were so much better than me that it just instilled. I remember I used to watch these movies and people would make jokes about, oh man, God, I could never do that. And I remember thinking to myself, I could do that. Like, that person's got 2 arms and 2 legs. I've got 2 arms and 2 legs. I reckon if I worked hard enough, I'd be able to do it one day. And whether I did or didn't get there, I watched stuff so much that it just programmed me, right? It just programmed this level of motivation in me. Whereas other people would say, oh my God, I've seen this movie 10 times now, Rad. And I'm like, really? I've seen it 100 times.
Oh, mate, you're exactly right. It is, as Grit's highlighted, it's effort over talent. That's where you see these footballers succeed, and these footballers become the 1%ers, and these footballers are the ones we talk about because we look up to. But I think what they do really well is, like, they see the end goal. You saw it in martial arts.
Yep.
And they surround themselves by the end goal.
Yep.
They surround themselves by good players, good coaches, good fundamental staff members that's going to get them better in terms of strength, fitness and so forth.
Yep.
And that's the difference. They know that they accept that, and that's where they're going to go down to. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what it's missing in the general pop, where they don't want to trust the process and don't want to surround themselves by the right person or the authority, because they want the end result now.
Yep. They want the short answers, right? The easy come, right?
And that's how athletes do it really well. That's the big difference I've realised stepping into or stepping out of the bubble is, it's laid out for the athletes, but it can be easily laid out for everyday people.
Yep.
They just got to trust the process.
That's really powerful. Have you ever read a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
Yeah.
I can't remember which one of it is, but one of the 7 habits is start with the end in mind. And that was really powerful for me. I read that book 3 times. It was one of the most influential self-development books that I've read in the last decade. And start with the end in mind just made so much sense. The idea that whatever it is that you do, what's the end goal? Why are you doing this? And if you get clear on that, it makes it so much easier to prioritize things. And prioritizing has been bastardized. The word priority means prior to, and by definition, you can actually only have one priority.
Yeah.
People pluralized, or what I call bastardized, the word priority into priorities. They say, what are your priorities? And if a really good saying is, if you've got more than one priority, then you've got none, because you can't have more than one.
Yeah.
So there's got to be one thing that means prior to, And the idea of, starting with the end in mind, it allows you to prioritize what it is that you want to do, because you go, well, you know what, with this thing, I don't know, I guess I'm just kind of doing it for fun or whatever. And that makes it really easy for you to say, okay, I'm going to put these other things before I do that. But with me, with my martial arts training, I went, when I was doing my Kung Fu, I was doing it through my 20s. And when I was in my 20s, I was a drug addict. I was taking drugs every weekend. I was just being a dickhead. And my Kung Fu teacher was very accepting of me, but at the same time had low tolerance. And what I mean by that is he didn't kick me out of the school, but he wouldn't make me feel good about what I was doing. And he used to say to me, he'd say, Rad, what do you do this for? Why are you here? What do you want to get out of it? And I'd tell him my goals, and they were big goals. And he said, well, you're never going to get there doing it the way that you're doing it. And I was like really shocked. I was like, what do you mean? He said, you got to train 6 days a week for hours a day if you want to be a Kung Fu master. What are you doing? You're here and there and you're everywhere. And he used to say to me, and this stuck with me, he said, you have to think of the top 3 things that are in your life. And if Kung Fu isn't in those top 3, you'll never get where you want to be. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, for most people, family and work are up there. It's rare that you'll find somebody that won't put what makes money for them and their family up in one of those top 3 places. But the third spot is up for battle. The third spot could be socializing. Maybe that's more important to you than Kung Fu. You'll never get good at it. Or maybe it's relaxing. Maybe you work hard from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then you want to relax in the evening. Well, you'll never get good at Kung Fu. And he made me really rationalize this idea. And so for me, when I had that end in mind, and then I was able to prioritize what it is, it actually completely changed the way I live my life. I used to say no to my friends all the time after that conversation about plans for a Friday night. I'd always say, no, I'll be there at 9:30 because I do Kung Fu from 6 until 9. But it's Friday night, we're doing this. I said, yeah, no, but I'll be there until 9:30. And I'm so happy that I was given that level of motivation at that young age, because whether I got to that level with Kung Fu that I set out for or not, I developed a mentality, a belief, a level of motivation, a level of drive. It allowed me to move into that next step, which I didn't even recognize at the time, which was the daily habit of movement that set me up for where I am now. And I think what you've just said, I knew that already, right? I mean, how else would a professional athlete get to where they were if they weren't that motivated, right? But I think this is a conversation that a lot of people need to have with themselves. And this is what yesterday's topic was all about, this idea of short-term goals and why people just keep never getting anywhere, because they're not addressing these underlying issues. All they're doing is, the sun starts coming out in spring and they look at themselves in the mirror and go, oh, shit, I've got to do something about my body.
Sun's coming up, I've got to go Balmoral, got to get a rig out.
Yeah.
I think what I've got to add on that, and it's not taking away the word habit, I think there's 2 pathways. Again, don't know what book. There's that many books that highlight it. It's being consciously doing what you want to do, or being conscious on your habit, and unconsciously doing your habit. Again, for us, it's a bit different, and it's habit because we every day you train. It's unconsciously embedded into our thing. And I think where people, athletes, individuals need to get to is from the conscious. So obviously highlight it. Come at spring, got to get the rig good. To obviously make that a proper habit that's all right throughout the year. Winter, you don't have to snack on Big Macs. It's just you're embedded in you. I think that's the big difference where athletes, it's just embedded in them. You'll see them in off-season being when the season's done. They'll still be at the club running 3 days a week to stay fit, because it's in their head. It's in they're programmed to be fit and healthy. So I think that's the gap we got to obviously fill in and push over.
And this is why, anybody that's listening, this is why we put so much emphasis on this first step, on motivation, because people think that motivation is like something that you just set it and forget it. Like you say, okay, why am I doing this? Yep, I'm motivated, bang, we're doing it, and you go. Well, ask yourself how that's working out for you. How consistent have you been in the last 30 days with your training? And if you've been consistent for 30 days, how consistent have you been for the last 6 months? Because the real results that everybody's looking for, like, it's very rare that anybody comes in that gym for us in that front door and I say, what are you here for? And they go, oh, something mediocre. Like, I don't really mind if I get anything. I just, you guys look good. And if I don't really achieve much, but I have a bit of fun along the way, I'll be happy with that. Nobody does that. Nobody does. People come in the door, I say, what are you here for? And they've always got big goals. It might be for somebody that's never done a pull-up. I want to be able to do pull-ups and I want to build some upper body strength. Awesome. Let's nail it for you. I want to be able to do the splits as a big one for us. A lot of people come here that are strong and fit already, but they're not flexible and they're like, I want to be able to do the splits. So they're big goals. And they're big goals that if you're not consistent for long periods of time, you're not going to get there. Exactly. And the first thing you need to do is dial in this motivation. And what we talk about is goals are great for getting you started, but until your goals turn into a burning desire, which is what it is for me. Like, to give you guys some context to our listeners, what do I mean by a burning desire? So my goals are big, right? But the two big rocks for me at the moment that as a big reason why I'm working with you weekly is to do a one-arm pull-up and a handstand push-up. And they're two things that every time I've gone really in on, this shoulder injury that we've identified that happened 21 years ago keeps coming back to haunt me. So I have to nail that before I can move on to my big goals. But they're my big rocks, right? But it is such a burning desire for me that I only need to go 2 or 3 days of not training until I start to feel anxious. And I mean real anxiety. I mean, I can't focus in a conversation with my wife. My wife will start going to me, what is wrong, Rad? What is going on in your head? And I'll say to her, I'll be like recently I had a vasectomy, right? And I couldn't train properly for a month. Fuck, I was going crazy by the end of the month. And she kept having to reassure me. She kept having to say, don't worry, baby, don't worry. You planned this. It's going to happen. You're going to get back to training. And that's what I mean by a burning desire. It's not like you have to start saying to yourself, oh, shit, man, fuck, I haven't trained for a week or two. I better get back into it. No, it's like it literally aches and eats away at you when you're not doing it.
It's part of your everyday living. It's part of you. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Like if I don't, I know exercise is one thing. Coffee, it's part of me. Yeah. If I don't have it, I don't function. If I don't train, 5 to 6 times with a run or two, end of the week will come, I feel like I haven't ticked off all my things.
Yep.
That's being worked and earned money's one thing, but feeling good, feeling like I'm looking healthy and all those ticks. They tick the boxes.
Yep.
So
yeah.
Someone's just commented here.
Yeah, Jody Sim, one of our superstar members at Unity Gym. Good morning for the second time, Jody. I already saw you at ungodly hours when everybody else is still asleep, kicking it. Jody says, I feel like it is also unrealistic to be motivated all the time. So the habit is important. Sometimes it's a necessity to just grit up and just do it at the start. And once you start to see progress, that's when you may be more motivated to keep going and to continue seeing results. I couldn't agree with you more, Jody. I honestly couldn't. And this is what you've just highlighted is exactly why we're saying goals aren't enough. It has to be a burning desire, because the what you just described there is the moment where people that have goals fall off the bandwagon. When it gets hard and you don't feel like doing it, your goals aren't enough. The burning desire is what gets you through there. Somebody that was one of the biggest inspirations for me through my youth was Bruce Lee. Being a kid before the internet, if you were into action movies and martial arts, eventually you found out about Bruce Lee, and he was just so inspirational. He was probably one of the main reasons why I started Kung Fu and not kickboxing or whatever, But in an interview, it wasn't Bruce Lee. There's a really good documentary called I Am Bruce Lee, and they interview all the people that are celebrities that say so much of their success came from Bruce Lee. And one of them is Ed O'Neill, who played Al Bundy from Married with Children.
Yeah, right.
He's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he talks about how, and it took him 15 years to get his black belt, and he talks about how Bruce Lee was one of his biggest motivations. And he quotes Bruce Lee by saying, Bruce was talking about how hard motivation was for him when he was a teenager, and he used to go to his Kung Fu Academy every day, but every day when he was about to walk in, he knew that his mates were just down the road goofing off at the park and doing whatever. And he used to have this mental battle where he'd be thinking, do I go and play with my mates or do I go into my Kung Fu Academy? And he used to say to himself in his head every day, just walk through the door, just walk through the door, just walk through the door. Because he knew that the second he walked through the door, and in a Kung Fu Academy, you walk in, you bow, you take your shoes off. As soon as he did that, he wasn't going to leave. Like once his teacher had seen him, and there's these famous movies about his teacher now, Yip Man. Once his teacher had seen him, that was it. He was going to train. And so it was just walk through the door, just walk through the door. And so what you've said there, Jody, it couldn't be more true. But the burning desire is what allows you to do that very easily. It's what allows you on those days that when you feel like shit, when you don't feel like going to the gym, you can just get up in the morning, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. Fuck that, I'm fucking going to the gym. And you go to the gym and you know that once you're here, like sometimes I've trained for a month and every day has been the shittest training sessions. But that month of shit training but still training adds up to something good.
Compounding effect, mate.
That's right.
And Jody's highlighted it as soon as you see progress. So seeing the end or seeing something or seeing a mini goal or a short-term goal and so forth gets you going day to day. Jody's highlighted that really well.
Yep. Yeah, it does. It's all about the small wins, which is why for the health hierarchy we do motivation first, then daily habit of movement second, because they are the lowest hanging fruit. And tomorrow's show, we are going to talk all about the daily habit of movement. How do we do it? Why it's so important? And what tips and tricks and hacks can you employ to create some success in your life? Thanks, Nalesh, for coming on the show, mate, especially with only 3 hours sleep. I really appreciate you coming in here for a chat.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Have a good day, everyone. And if you're listening live or before the 21st of April 2021, you still have about 24 hours left to grab our Flexibility Masterclass. Amazing programs to make you strong and flexible and unlock serious calisthenics and gymnastics flexibility skills for things like press to handstands, back bridges, splits, middle splits, front splits, all that good stuff. Have a great day, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you.
Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that
It's
far.
the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.